What if our obsession with the tiny waist has never really been about health? What if it has always been about something much more interesting? The idea that a woman's body should look a certain way. And somehow, across generations, women have been expected to reshape themselves to match it. Corsets, diets, exercise, shapewear, waist trainers, cosmetic procedures, and now, social media filters and editing apps. The tools have changed, but the pressure to change our bodies hasn't. And here's the strange part. The ideal female body has changed dramatically over the last 100 years. So why does the demand to change our bodies never seem to disappear? Let's talk about the tiny waist. If you've ever looked at an old photograph and thought, wow, women really had tiny waists back then, there's something important to remember. They didn't all look like that. Clothing helped create the silhouette. Corsets could dramatically change the relationship between the waist, hips, and bust. But the interesting thing isn't really the corset. It's what happened after it. Because when corsets disappeared from everyday fashion, the desire for a particular silhouette didn't disappear with them. It simply found new ways to get there. And that's where this story becomes less about history and much more about us, because the perfect female body has never stayed still. In the 1920s, the fashionable silhouette was relatively straight and boyish. By the 1950s, women were being celebrated for an exaggerated hourglass figure. By the 1990s, extremely slim bodies were back in fashion. And then came the era of the dramatic waist-to-hip ratio. Tiny waist, full hips, flat stomach, curves, visible muscle, and somehow, preferably, all of it at once. Look at that list for a moment. Some of those characteristics don't naturally arrive as a package, and yet we're increasingly presented with bodies that appear to have all of them, which raises a rather obvious question. Who decided this was the perfect combination? We often talk about beauty standards as though they simply exist, as though society collectively looked around one day and said, apparently, this is what beautiful looks like. But beauty standards don't simply appear. They're repeated by fashion, advertising, entertainment, celebrities, magazines, and now, algorithms. And repetition does something very clever to the human brain. It makes things feel familiar, and familiarity has a funny way of disguising itself as truth. We stop thinking, that's what I've been shown repeatedly, and start thinking, that's what beautiful looks like. There's a difference. Social media has taken that process and put it in our pockets. Once upon a time, you could open a magazine and see an impossibly perfect woman. You might admire her. You might compare yourself with her. But eventually, you closed the magazine. Now the comparison can follow you everywhere. It's on your phone, in your bedroom, at the gym, at the beach, in your shopping feed, and sometimes, what you're comparing yourself with isn't even a completely real body. Photography can change proportions. Lighting can change shape. Clothing can create the appearance of a smaller waist. Angles can make bodies look dramatically different. Images can be edited. Filters can alter proportions, and yet we often don't stop to analyze what we're seeing. We simply see it and compare. That's the trap, because we don't usually compare ourselves with ordinary people. We compare ourselves with exceptional examples, the naturally tiny waist, the professional photograph, the carefully posed body, the celebrity whose appearance is part of her job, the image that's been edited until every proportion looks perfect. And then we look at ourselves in ordinary bathroom lighting on a Tuesday morning. It's not exactly a fair competition, and yet somehow we still feel as though we're losing. And once we've convinced ourselves there's a problem, someone can sell us a solution. This is where the tiny waist becomes incredibly useful. You can sell a corset, a waist trainer, shapewear, a diet, a fitness program, a treatment, a procedure, a pair of leggings that supposedly makes your waist look smaller, and perhaps the cleverest product of all is the promise that you're only a few changes away from finally looking right. Notice the language. Not healthier, not stronger, not more comfortable. Right, that's a very different promise. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with wanting to look a certain way. There's nothing wrong with exercising. Nothing wrong with losing weight if that's something you personally choose. Nothing wrong with wearing shapewear. And there's certainly nothing wrong with finding a particular body shape attractive. The problem isn't preference. The problem is when preference becomes expectation, when a cultural ideal quietly becomes a measurement of your worth, when you start looking at your perfectly ordinary body and thinking it's somehow a failed version of someone else's. And there's another problem with treating a particular shape as the definition of beauty. It makes the human body look much simpler than it really is. Bodies have different bone structures, different genetics, different fat distribution, different muscle mass, different ages, different histories, and health itself is far more complicated than what we can see in a photograph. A waist measurement cannot tell us the whole story of a person's health, and a particular waist-to-hip ratio isn't a universal requirement for being healthy, attractive, or feminine. Yet beauty culture can reduce all that complexity to a very simple message: smaller here, bigger there. And what's especially strange is how quickly the ideal can change. The body celebrated in the 1990s isn't exactly the body celebrated today. We've moved from one extreme to another. Ultra thin, then dramatically curvy, now a kind of hybrid ideal. Tiny waist, curves, flat stomach, visible muscle, slim arms, round hips. And very little visible evidence of the ordinary processes that create an actual human body. Eating, aging, pregnancy, stress, genetics, life. We're being encouraged to want a body that looks completely natural, while achieving that appearance may require an extraordinary amount of effort. And sometimes money, and sometimes restriction, and sometimes procedures. That's the contradiction. So why does this work? Why do we care so much? Because humans are social creatures. We pay attention to what gets rewarded. If certain bodies receive compliments, attention, and admiration, we notice. If celebrities with those bodies are portrayed as desirable, successful, and confident, we notice. If fashion is designed around a particular shape, we notice. And eventually, the message becomes internal. We don't need someone standing over us saying, "Your waist should be smaller." We start saying it to ourselves. That's when a beauty standard becomes really powerful, because you no longer need an external authority. You become your own critic. And once that happens, there is always something to fix. Your waist could be smaller, your stomach could be flatter, your hips could be wider, your skin could be smoother, your body could look younger. The list is endless. And just when you think you've finally got it right, the goalposts move. And that should be the clue. Because if there were one objectively perfect female body, we wouldn't have to keep reinventing it. But we do. The body celebrated by one generation can become the body women are encouraged to change in the next. So perhaps the question isn't, how do I achieve the ideal body? Perhaps it's, why do I believe this is the ideal body in the first place? That's a much more interesting question. And no, I'm not suggesting we stop caring about how we look. That's unrealistic. Most of us enjoy looking good. We dress up, we do our hair, we wear makeup, we choose clothes that make us feel attractive. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem starts when beauty stops being something we enjoy and becomes something we feel obligated to achieve. When getting dressed becomes a negotiation with your stomach. When photographs become evidence. When eating becomes something you have to earn. When your waist becomes a number you're constantly trying to reduce. When you look in the mirror and don't see a person, you see a project. That's the part worth questioning. because your body was never supposed to be a trend, and yet we keep treating it like one. The tiny waist comes back, then it disappears, then it comes back wearing different clothes. The corset became shapewear, the waist trainer became an Instagram product. The fashion magazine became the algorithm. The technology changed, the pressure adapted, but the underlying message remained remarkably consistent. You would be more beautiful if your body were different. And perhaps that's the lie. Not that a tiny waist can be beautiful. Of course it can. The lie is that beauty requires one particular shape, that there is a correct version of a woman's body, that if we just work hard enough, spend enough money, restrict ourselves enough, or find the right product, we can finally arrive at it. But there is no arrival. Because the standard isn't a destination, it's a moving target. So the next time you see an impossibly tiny waist on your screen, don't immediately ask, "How do I get that?" Ask something more useful. "Why do I want that?" And then ask, "Who taught me that this is what beautiful looks like?" You don't have to stop caring about beauty. You don't have to stop wanting to look good. You don't have to reject fashion, makeup, exercise, or anything else that makes you feel good about yourself. You simply have to remember that a beauty standard is a preference, not a fact. And your body doesn't need to pass a beauty test to deserve to be your body. Maybe that's the real freedom, not deciding that beauty doesn't matter, just deciding that it doesn't get to decide your worth. And honestly, that's a much better place to start. What do you think? Has the idea of the perfect body changed the way you see yourself? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to The Beauty Lie so you don't miss the next one. There are plenty more beauty myths waiting to be unpacked.